All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 12, I believe, of Super Metroid Strat Chat. My name is Kipp, and I am joined by my co-host, True Moss. True Moss, are you there?
Hey, Kip.
Hey, man, what's up, dude?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just trying to close out the end of the year, with school and all that stuff. So I've been pretty busy the last few weeks. What about you?
Yeah, I've been actually sort of ousted from my house for the last week, so I've been not streaming much. I've got family staying there, and there's just not enough room. So I'm actually crashing at my parents' place.
Oh, that's
While,
cool.
yeah, so I had to bring all my gear. I don't go anywhere without a PVM now, so it's the biggest piece of luggage I have to carry around and the heaviest. But yeah, so we're in a different setup, so hopefully everything works out okay.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, having everything there to still be able to do this. And any kind of new thing going on with you with Super Metro? What have you been up to in terms of, even if you're not streaming much, you've been practicing anything lately?
Well, I've started putting time into any percent again now that I've got my a 118 in Hundo. I was actually fortunate enough to be in Just Defend's channel when he bopped me in Hundo. He hasn't posted it yet, so for tonight I'm still ninth, but as soon as he posts it, I'm pushed down to 10th. But it's an honor to get bought by someone like Just Defend.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you get bought by JD, that's actually a mark of honor. So,
Yeah,
well, cool, man, awesome. So we'll be looking forward to some new route runs from you in the near future.
yeah, I can't wait.
Only thing new for me is I think literally last time we had Strat Chat, I think I cut off the stream after Strat Chat was over and then came back and did like a couple low ice runs and then popped off a 30-second PB or something. So I don't know where that came from, but that's pretty much the only thing that's happened to me. And then since then, I haven't even come close. So hopefully, I'll get back to practicing and getting some good runs in here in the near future now that school's wrapping up. But now I think it's time for us to transition into our guest interview of the night. We are very fortunate to have Mr. TopsyTurve joining us this evening. Topsy, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can.
All right, man. Well, welcome to Strat Chat. We appreciate you coming on. I actually want to let Tremal start with this because, I think the last thing that you posted in terms of Super Metroid primary category is you were running 100% and got the sub 120. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my most recent major category.
Cool. And so I know you and Moss, spend a lot of time talking and doing stuff together. So Moss, why don't you start with that? Let's start off with a little bit of questions about how that sort of 100% stuff went.
Yeah, great. Topsy, I'm so glad to have you here, man. It's a long overdue.
I'm glad to be here. I'm completely honored.
Great. So aside from mentioning that you are the lead scientist on the Ceres space station, we need to talk a little bit about your hundo. Congrats on a sub 120. I think
Thank you.
your dear tier post says that 119 sounds so much better than 120, and it's really true.
It does. It has a sort of ring to it,
So I'd love to hear like a little bit about the story of your push for the 119.
Yeah, so right before getting the 119 or just like going back to hundo, I think my PB had been I think it was right around a 125, and from the 125 I got that mid 2017. From that time until I started hundo again, there was something like 6 to 7 months of just like in between time. So I had progressed a lot in that time. I did a ton of any percent and then like little minor categories here and there just for fun. So I was really excited to go back to hundo. I think it re-sparked for me because you got the sub 120 and I saw like that's just such a good goal and you were so excited about getting that, and I felt, I don't know, driven and motivated from the excitement,
Yeah.
uh so yeah, so then I decided, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go for hundo. And actually I had no plans for sub 120. I didn't think I could take it down as far as I had taken it. My goal was just minute by minute, which I think is the best way of approaching any category.
Sure.
And yeah, and then over the course of just a few weeks, really, maybe a month total, we were just taking minute by minute. I think we had skipped 124, went straight to 123, and then skipped 122 and went straight to 121. So there was a lot of excitement in that, I had progressed as a runner in my time not running hundo, and then starting on hundo, just it was a lot of awesome PBs. It was a fun process.
Terrific. So what was the process? Like, were there specific sections that you were realizing I got to put a lot of time into this, or what was like, what helped you to shave those minutes off?
Yeah, so like right away I was finding myself constantly having issues like reverting back to any percent strats, and not remembering like what kind of ammunition I need, or not feeling as safe as I should feel, because it's hundo. You have a lot more going into specific boss battles or whatever the situation may be. So I was like stressing myself out on those portions of the run. But just generally, I feel like my early game has always been pretty strong. Just because I've run a lot of like these like smaller categories, like the RTAs, just for fun, and like 100 missile and so on. So I've gotten, I mean, for most people, early game is going to be a lot stronger than late game, but I admittedly don't put as much time into late game as I should. So even if you watch my hundo PB, my 119, I had a really strong early game. But then if you watch my Torian, I put no time into like a hundo specific Torian. So it's like all over the place. And that's my own fault. I mean, the process was just reacclimating myself to 100% and trying to actually put some time into learning hundo strategies, because I find myself a lot of times just picking the safe route out, just pick the second fastest route or second fastest strat rather than the fastest, just because it's a little bit more consistent and less dangerous.
Sure. What was like the main sticking point? Where was like the point in the run where you were like, oh man, this part's just garbage?
A lot of time for me, it's going into Lower Norfair. So from Lower Norfair all the way to the end of the run, that's where I kept reverting to a lot of my any percent strats and forgetting the fact that I have screw attack, and that's actually faster than doing this or doing that. And so like right after Ridley, going up through a lot of the like the key hunter rooms and such, there are faster ways through in hundo rather than doing like the any percent strats. And I just many times just found myself reverting to the any percent from there on out in the run. But yeah, that's probably the main sticking point is past Lower Norfair. I'm starting to struggle a lot of times in hundo.
Mm-hmm. So when you're doing research for hundo, is there anyone in particular that you're putting a lot of time watching how they do hundo? Like for me, to get a 118, I put a lot of time in watching Behemoth, and I mean, obviously he's the best at it, but it was interesting for me to watch Behemoth because he always approaches things slightly differently, and it kind of just got me thinking a little differently about each room and way to progress through it. Was there anyone you were watching in particular to help you kind of figure your way through getting to a 119?
Yeah, actually a lot of like in my free time, I oftentimes find myself just sitting here glued to my computer screen watching a lot of different people's runs. And for hundo specifically, I'm pretty sure I watched through like the first, like the top 10 runs. I didn't focus a lot of time into like Zost, Oats, and Behemoth. And I do that a lot because I think of them as a whole new category of runner. They're at like a more like an elite top tier runner status. So I don't know. I some of the strats that they do, I don't ever jump on top of immediately. But there were definitely people I stuck to a lot. Yours specifically, I will say I've probably watched the most. Whenever I rerouted myself through hundo and reacclimated myself to the route and some of like the more general strats, I watched through your run. I actually did that on stream. But I watched through a lot of people's runs. I watched through yours. I watched through Fuzda's run, and another one that I watched through a lot. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, I'd say I put most of my time into watching your route because yours was so fresh at the time.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I mean, I did it all on stream, and it was fun. I mean, literally going room by room, and there were some strats that you were doing. Actually, this is pretty interesting because prior to running hundo my second time, like getting back into it, posts like any percent and some other like minor categories for fun, I never did any like 3-tap short charges ever in any run. And so watching your run, you do it in a few spots that you kind of have to do it. Like for example, in when you first enter Maridia, I always forget what it's called, but you have to do the short charge and shoot the super into the crab.
Yeah, I just call it the Maridia short charge.
Yeah, is it called Main Street? I can't remember.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So that one right there, I for like an hour on stream, I couldn't get that a single time. It's because I was doing a 2-tap, and it is possible to get it if I remember correctly, but it's so much harder, just extremely tight. And then people started pointing out to me, he's doing a 3-tap, like that's not just a normal 2-tap short charge or whatever. You're actually doing like a 3-tap, which is something I had never done. So coming back to Hundo actually opened up my eyes to even more like understanding about short charges and different strats like that.
Sure. If you put enough time into my stream, you would have noticed that listening to ABBA would have helped you get that short charge in Maridia.
I was waiting on you to say that, Moss. I still think about that sometimes when I'm attempting it.
Yeah, if anyone, I'm going to post a link to my Stutter 3-tap video, but one of the things that I mention in it is if you listen to The Name of the Game by ABBA, it's like perfect timing to get a consistent Stutter 3-tap. It's pretty funny. Anyway, Kipp, why don't you take over for a little while?
Yeah, so obviously, like a 119, any kind of sub 120 in Hundo is really impressive. And one thing about 100% that I think is really tough that you mentioned earlier is like, most people start with any percent, and a lot of times 100% is sort of like the next thing that they spend maybe some time on. And so we end up carrying a lot of our strats with us, but 100% is like, there's just so many rooms and so many strats and so many things that you have to do. Like, it's pretty overwhelming. Before we kind of go back into the past and talk to you about some of that, like, was there any particular section that you felt like when you kind of first started taking it seriously and like really wanted to cut your time where you were like, I really need to clean this up? Like, what section to you was the one you spent the most time on?
Yeah, I would say a lot of Maridia, or actually like the Brinstar cleanup and I don't know, I guess that's a good question, because past Dragon there were a lot of like Hundo specific strats, and then the route is entirely different. Any percent and Hundo at that point it just completely splits. Any percent will go up, for old route would go up and grab plasma, and Hundo just goes down and cleans up through Maridia and does a couple laps around and then grabs plasma. And that there I had to put a lot of time into just going through that motion, so I'm not reverting back to any percent and going straight for plasma, which I did plenty of times.
Yeah.
Actually, I did it a couple times on PB pace, and it's like, oh shit, I just grabbed plasma, and now if I even try and go back and make up any of this, it's like I'm a minute behind because of that.
Yep.
So I would say, yeah, probably post Dragon and up really, like if I'm being honest, up through the end of the run, there were a ton of strats all the way through that I need to get familiar with. Actually, another one was like, as dumb as it may seem, killing GT correctly. If you look back at like my 125, I'm just spamming shots at him and trying to dodge his throws and stuff. And at the time, I wasn't really analyzing runs as much as I was. I think once I had gotten the 125, it was a lot more just a casual having fun speedrunning thing. But as I got better, I put more time into like actually analyzing strategies.
Yeah.
And that was one there, like, okay, I can stand here literally basically hugging GT and shoot straight up and get a couple shots in at once and do more damage. But yeah, I think really for me, a lot of post Dragon, there was a ton of strats that I really need to learn. Like another one too that I haven't put into runs, but I have relatively consistent in practice is, I believe it's called the Blue Bomber strat. Coming through Maridia, what is it called?
Is it back into Aqueduct?
Yes, and you go up and you grab the missile and the supers, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting in practice. I haven't put it into runs at all, because it's, it doesn't save a crazy amount of time, but it's such a a swag strat, and it's a Hundo specific strat. It's a strategy you're only gonna see in Hundo, so it's like things like that. Trying to get those into the run. That's post Dragon for the most part.
Yeah, I find that fascinating how, like, I feel like in mini runs, like, even though they're all different or a lot of categories, I always feel like Maridia the more you play, the sort of more you realize how tricky it can be. And so, like,
Oh,
Maridia
yeah.
is tough in pretty much every category. Okay, so I do want to circle back to Super Metroid related stuff here in a little while because we got a lot to talk about, especially with series, your 45 and 80%, and a bunch of other stuff that you've done, which I have all your stats up here. But I want to kind of go back and learn a little bit more of a history about you and your, not only your streaming, but just your gaming background. So talk me through, like, what was the first console you ever owned? What were some of the games you started playing when you were a kid? Like, how did you end up kind of getting into gaming as something that was a fun hobby for you?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have a lot of gaming influence in my life really early on. I still do. I have two older brothers. I have a fairly large family, 6 kids in my family, and a total of 8 people in my family. And everybody has been very into video games. Every single person in my family, in different portions of their life. But early on, my dad actually, when I was really, really young, had an Atari. But he also had an original Nintendo and a Super Nintendo. Now, I was born in the early 90s. I was born in 93. So if I remember correctly, it's a year before Super Metroid came out. Didn't it come out in 94, October or something like that?
Yeah, it came out in 94. I want to say March or April, maybe?
Yeah,
Yes.
you should know it's 94 because it's the first thing that
Right.
comes up when you turn on Super Metroid.
That's right. It is earlier on in the year. But yeah, so Super Nintendo stuff just in general was more familiar for me because that's what I grew like. That's the era that I had grown up in, and my dad played a lot of Super Nintendo, which was so cool for me. Which it was just normal in my life, but my 2 older brothers are like 5 and 7 years older than me. So, whenever I was like 5 years old, they were just sprouting into their teenage years and they're playing a whole lot of video games. And I'd say some of my earliest memories are watching my dad, believe it or not, playing Link to the Past. And he played a lot of it all the time. My oldest brother would do the same. He'd play Link to the Past with them. And yeah, so that's like, I grew up in a family that played a lot of video games. And growing up, I would say Super Nintendo was my first console. I mean, it was my family's console, but it was what was really familiar to me early on. But then past that, every few Christmases we would get the new console, and that was like our little treat. We, like I said, fairly big family, so it's not like we had a ton of money to throw around or anything like that. We were, just 8 people in a family. It's pretty tough to survive very, very well or anything. But our big treat was video games, and yeah, so every few years we'd just get a new console and progress and get a new console and progress, and that gets me to where I am today.
So what were a few of the like early games that you really kind of got into and spent more time than just like renting it one time or beating the game? Like, what were some games that you played like over and over or really enjoyed spending time on?
Yeah, so for me, 100%, I mean, Super Metroid. I played a ton of it, and that's like my most vivid Super Nintendo memories from my childhood. Other than that, though, I played a lot of Link to the Past. Played that with my dad and my brothers. We played a lot of Street Fighter and a lot of just in general fighting games. So Street Fighter, we had all the Mortal Kombat. So we had 1, 2, 3, and then I believe there was like also an Ultimate Edition that we had.
Hey, wait a minute. I got to interrupt you. What about this elite fighting game that I've heard you're good at called Shaq Fu? Did you play that when you were a kid?
Believe it or not, I never once played that. No, not once as a kid. I found out, I think it was like in middle school, I'd first heard about Shaq Fu, and I thought it was actually like a joke. I didn't think it was a real thing. But no, I did not play that as a kid, fortunately.
Okay, so just as a quick aside, because you have actually, done speed runs of Shaq Fu, and in fact, I think last year you even did it in like some kind of marathon thing or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, are you the world record in any of the Shaq Fu stuff? Like, I can't remember what all your stuff is with that.
Yeah, so I ran it. It was all for fun. I mean, it was kind of a joke how it became a thing when I was like just starting streaming and like getting into speedrunning. But yeah, I ran it for the SNES Superstars. So is I think likely the largest group of people that have watched Shaq Fu at any given time in the world ever.
And it was you.
Yeah, it was really funny too. there was something like 3,000 people watching at that time. It was unreal. And on that stream, so now I'd put a lot of hours into it, just like I said, for fun, and couldn't beat what my PB was at the time. And I just so happened to, on that stream, very nervously and like stuttering over my words and whatnot, beat the world record like that I had set at that time, right there on the stream. And it was one of the funniest things ever. I mean, the chat, I wish I could go back and see that chat, because it was hilarious. I'm not the current world record holder. I've got the world record on console, but since then there's been another runner, Komaru, who broke the world record in like what would be called the main category, I suppose, which is just the easy playthrough. And he did that with keyboard and whatnot, which is just, it's essentially the same thing. But I still technically have the world record in normal mode, but really nobody runs it. And I think I'm the only person who's actually beaten Shaq Fu blindfolded, and that was just kind of for fun.
Cool. Okay, so we were talking about like.
I'm sorry, I gotta jump
go
in.
ahead.
Like, I love the idea that you did Shaq Fu blindfolded, because like it's the best way to play it, because then you don't have to actually watch Shaq Fu.
That's the truth too, because if you don't see anything, it sounds like a great game. The music in that game is actually really good. It's really, really good.
Sweet. So, you were talking about, playing, fighting games and stuff like that. So how did you end up transitioning into speedrunning? Like, what was the first game that you, maybe not like legitimately like did speedruns, like you were trying to like post times on the internet or something, but like, do you have any games that you recall doing speedrun type things in? Like, how did you kind of get into this type of gameplay?
Yeah, I had always known that GDQ was a thing. I had watched a lot of just like, I've never watched a GDQ live. I mean, I have now, obviously, but I had never like actually like seen on Twitch when GDQ was happening. I would just watch back at runs that had happened over the past few years. And this is like 2012, 2013, 2014 kind of runs, I believe. A lot of like the really old original like kind of GDQs. I'd watch back at some of those runs on YouTube, and I thought they were pretty fascinating. I didn't realize how big the speedrunning scene was. So I'd say, believe it or not, the first game that I ever speedran, this would have been I think around my junior year of, this is 100% my junior year of college. I think that's 2014, 2015. I, for fun, started learning Super Mario 64. So I was just, in my room in my college dorm with, not my dorm, it was an apartment, with my N64, a CRT TV, and by myself, not knowing that there was as big of a scene as there was, speedrunning Super Mario 64, because I saw a video on someone's like Facebook post of somebody beating it 16 stars and doing the backwards long jump stuff and whatnot. And I did a lot of that for fun. Never posted a time, never recorded. I actually used to time myself with a Rubik's Cube timer. That's how I would do it. Like, I would like the kind that you see like the stack mat ones. So I would literally, because I used to cube a lot, I'd put my hands down on it and grab my controller and just start going. And that's how I would time myself.
Okay, so on that note, that actually brings up something that I wanted to ask about that I had completely forgotten that I'm glad you mentioned, okay? So you mentioned that you have done a lot of cubing, and forgive me for not knowing the vernacular just because I'm not as familiar with it, but you've done a lot of stuff with like Rubik's Cubes and like, I guess like putting them together with certain times, and I think there's even different categories and stuff. But I guess the question I have is like, to me, as an outsider that has never done that, it seems to me like that would take a really incredible amount of hand dexterity and speed. And so I was going to ask, like, speedrunning Super Metroid, it's a really tough game, and you got, what I would, everybody has different opinions on, what qualifies as, good or top or elite or whatever, but I mean, I think you've gotten really good, competitive, fast times very quickly. Like, it's not like you've been playing the game for really that long. Do you think that the Rubik's Cube stuff that you did in some way translated to your ability to like do complex, finger and hand movements in Super Metroid, or do you think there's no correlation whatsoever?
No, I definitely think there is, and that's a good point too, because I've seen more recently a lot of speedrunners in various speedrunning communities also being really into cubing, and that's another thing too. You go to a lot of these speedrunning events, you go to GDQ, like I went to SGDQ this last year, And I mean, they had a whole table with like 50 different Rubik's cubes just sprawl like just all over the place, and everyone's cubing. I think personally that it did translate a lot. Um, in terms of like for me too, I think it helped me a lot. I feel like if I went back to cubing and took it a little bit more seriously, I think I'd do a lot better now. Just because then, whenever I was cubing, I felt rushed a lot, and I was always like shaking and trying to be faster than I actually was, and not taking my time to go step by step. And I think speedrunning actually taught me that to slow down. You can't just jump into the fastest strategies or the fastest routes. You've got to go step by step. And it's kind of the same whenever I first started speedrunning. I was trying to do so much, but then had kind of stumbled over myself and had to take it back and then learn step by step. And now I feel much more calm with my hands when I'm speedrunning. It's more fluid, more natural. So I feel like that, I feel like the speed cubing translated into my speedrunning, but I also feel like the speedrunning would translate back into my cubing.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so cool. So Super Mario 64 is another one of those games that people love, and is very competitive and very difficult. And I've never ran it, but I mean, like I guess a good way to put it would be when I first saw Super Metroid being people doing speedruns of Super Metroid, it just looked beautiful, and it was like, whoa, that's really cool, right? Like I feel the same way with Super Mario 64. I don't know how to play it, but it looks rad, and it looks tough. So. What was it that got you into running Super Metroid? Like, I know you said it was one of your favorite games, but like, what was the switch for you that got you like into speedrunning Super Metroid?
Yeah, so I'll admit that prior to 2017, I had never seen a Super Metroid speedrun. Um, I didn't know that it was. I mean, it sounds really dumb and kind of like naive. But I mean, what I had seen was really minimal. And then I think it was, let's see, it would have been January of 2017. I started streaming, and casually on stream, I started playing just like a random playthrough of Super Metroid. It was like the second or third stream I had done, and the few streams prior to that, I did some random computer games, and I think I played Cluster Truck as my first stream, and it's just there's not a huge scene for that or anything, so it's not like I was going to get many viewers. Uh, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to play through Super Metroid, and I realized, because I was going to play on the emulator, I realized how easily I could just set it up on the stream, because I mean the interface and whatnot was so simple. And yes, so I set my stream up and started streaming a casual playthrough of Super Metroid, and I remember I actually had like at that point like 4 or 5 people from like the Super Metroid community hop on in and give me pointers through the game. See, Super Metroid's always been a game. Every like few years, I would go back and play it again. A couple of years would go by, I'd play it again, and I had beaten it many times up to 2017. But it was the cool thing about this game, unlike a lot of games, like there's only a few games that have this kind of charm, is that it always feels fresh. It always feels like this is the first time I've played through this game. And so again, I was just doing another blind playthrough, seemingly blind. And I remember I got super stuck in Maridia, had no idea where to go. Granted, like I said, I beat this game like 7 or 8 times or something in my life. But people helped me through. And at the end of that stream, or it was over the course of like a few days, somebody in my chat said, "Hey, do you want to come watch me stream a speed run of this?" And I was like, "Whoa, okay, like, yeah, let's go do that." And I hopped on over and I watched her speed run it, and I think she got like a one. It was an 80% run, got like a 130 or something like that. But it was the first time I ever saw anybody do like early supers, and I was so shocked. I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't even know you could do that." And then a few other things, and it just completely blew my mind. And from there, I that night actually looked up on YouTube Super Metroid speedrun, and Spiriax, his run came up for some reason. I don't know how I searched it or what, but his run came up, and it was like one of his first sub 50 runs, I believe. And I watched that, and that's it. It's stuck, and I instantly, that day, I ordered what is it, a Super Nintendo to USB converter, so I would be able to play with a controller and actually speedrun the game.
Dude, okay, so now we're gonna get into because I mean that's a great story, and it's so funny. A lot of what you said is very, very close to exactly what happened to me, like how I got into it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is you know, you and I started basically exactly the same time, like the very beginning of 2017, because I distinctly remember there were three of us. It was me and you and Climbing Coder that were like kind of hanging out. We started doing some races together and stuff like that, and like, you know, having a bunch of fun and goofing off. But like I just remember at first how like I loved it and it was so much fun, but it also just truly seemed like so difficult. Like even with Moss, like I remember watching some of Moss's streams when I first was getting started, and I was just like, how on earth is he doing this stuff? Like I can't even barely like get her to move like hardly at all in any of these rooms, and he's like doing all this crazy stuff. So you know, what do you think it was like for you? Can you just kind of explain to anybody watching that might, you know, not have as much experience as you or just getting started, like what are some maybe words of wisdom on just kind of like, hey, I know it's hard right now, but stick with it and, you know, continue to improve? Like, what would you tell them?
Yeah, I've got a few bits of advice for anybody like that. So I think for me too, it was a very similar thing. Samus felt so sluggish, and I'd watch. I actually remember early on, I would watch other people's runs, so, you know, like top times. You know, I mean, at the time I would consider sub 50 as like top tier. That was in my mind, like that's unbelievable, right? And I remember some of the early runs I had watched were also True Moss, Shred Daily. I watched a lot of his, and at the time I think he was streaming just in general a lot of it as well. And I thought that there was like a different setting or something. Like really early on, I'm like, how are they moving so fast? How are they not having to jump so high? Every time I jump, I go higher than that. And how are they wall jump so clean? That's unbelievable. But yeah, I mean, it was cool because early on it was me, you, Climbing Coder, and a few other people that were like within like, you know, their first few months of speed running. I think just having people that are in your level of speed running around the same times as you is fun, because in a healthy way. So now I'll get into another point, because this is something that actually had kind of broke me down. I think this is a really good point too I should talk about, because I think every speedrunner should think about this. But in a healthy way, I felt like a good competition with these people. You know, other runners that were around my level, where I wanted to improve alongside them, because here we all are here just enjoying this game that we obviously love. We're putting hundreds of hours into it over a few months because it means that much to us. And, you know, it's fun to compete with other people, but also compete with yourself. And I think that's a good point. I should say my biggest point of advice to any runner is to always, first and foremost, compete with yourself, because at the end of the day, you're nothing. How can I explain it? Your perception of other people and their times doesn't reflect anything at all on you. Your time is your time, and you know, it's all for fun. Like there shouldn't be any sort of pain and suffering or mental anguish that you should go through in speedrunning. What it comes down to is this is a game that you enjoy, that you love, and you should just stick to that, enjoy it and love it, and compete with yourself. It's a competition with yourself. That's what speedrunning should be. And I found myself with a few people just trying to compete and actually going through, like jumping through my own mental hurdles to deal with that. And it got so, like, at least for me, and I'm humble enough to admit this, it got to a point where I felt more angry when I saw other people improving rather than excited for them. And that's when I realized, and I didn't really realize it, it just it took a while of me, I guess, growing as a person to come to, I guess, yeah, some sort of realization that that's not healthy and that's not the right way to approach just about anything in life. I'd say that's my biggest bit of advice, is approach speedrunning with a mentality that you're running the game for a reason. And the only reason that the game should be run is for fun and enjoyment and for excitement alongside other people that love the game as well.
Well said. I agree. And speaking of competing directly with yourself, if you go any faster in series, you are literally only going to be competing with yourself, because you are basically almost you almost have the world record in series escape right now. Just in case anybody's confused, y'all can see all of Topsy's times listed up here. I'm sure there are other times that you have. I just I can't fit every single thing on there. But the 47:21 means there's 47 seconds and 21 hundredths of a second left on the series timer when he reaches elevator. So it's the one category where like the higher the number, the better it is. And so it's second in the world, only behind Oats and Goats. And on top of that, not only do you have the second place time, but there's only been a few 47s ever run, and you've actually done it at least twice. Have you? Is it 3 times at this point, or twice, or what?
I think I've gotten it a 5 times.
5 times?
Yeah.
Well, my apologies, dude. I didn't realize that it had gotten to that level. So, like, that's not something that a lot of people do. So, Moss, I'm going to kind of let you drive on the questions about series, but can you kind of, Topsy, start talking to us a little bit about, how you view Series Station? Because I'm being dead serious, man. I've said this on stream a ton of times. I have no idea, like, how you do it. Like, every time I do it, I never know what's happening, and, like, I just fumble around and eventually get there. But, like, yours always looks so crisp. So can you talk to us a little bit about, why you think it's, something like, why is it something good to kind of know how to do? Because it legitimately saves time right at the start of the run. And then also just how did you go through the process of learning how to, do it so cleanly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also, when I explain through this, I'd like to make a point about what ED just said in the chat about Oates' time being beaten around 20 milliseconds, right? I want to talk about that because it's really interesting. And also what Canadian Owl just said about 5297, because series is one of the only parts of the run. Now, granted, this is provided that you're running major categories. It's the only part of any run that every runner is going to be doing no matter what, the exact same way. You've got to make it from the beginning to the end of series. And yeah, a lot of the early game for a lot of runs is the same, but every runner is going to be running series, just in general. If you run any major category, you're going to be doing series. So series is good for a few reasons. I think it teaches a runner patience. And I think it helped me a lot with just like not resetting as much, because I found myself resetting a lot. I went through a couple of bouts of resetting and kind of became a meme on my channel. But also it gives you like small goals to work on. And I think in anything in life, it's good to have small goals rather than just saying, if I started running the game and I was averaging like a 43 series, if I said I'm going to get a 47 series, then I'm just going to disappoint myself. But if I say I want to get a 44 series, then I can work towards it. So yeah, that's essentially how it started for me. Everyone's going to take it their own way, and taking it second by second is how I did it. I think within my first month of speedrunning, I had like a 44, and I was really proud of that. But again, early on in speedrunning, or just for most people, I'm sure you get into your mind what you would consider as like top times. So for me, I was thinking a 45 series was like really, really insane. But so I worked on it, just casually through runs, casually playing the game, and eventually got a 45. Just took it like a little at a time. And in doing that, you're watching other people run. You see what other people do, where they jump, what steams they're avoiding, what steams they're getting hit by every single time. You see like cool strategies like the tile boost in the tile room, and you kind of start to analyze it a little bit more, I think, as you become more serious into your speedrunning. And that's how I had approached it. So then, yeah, I mean, that's how the progression was. Once I had gotten a 45, I didn't ever think I could get a 46 in series. But, through more and more running the game, I eventually got the 46. And I was really proud of that. I think I had said something. If you look back, this is actually really interesting. If you look back at my first 46, or one of those times, I said something, or I posted like my little comment that you could put with each PB. I think it said something along the lines of, "This is my best PB." Just like, this is literally my best, like my most top ranked time, because I think it was top 50 or so at the time. Well, I think now there's something like 70 people with a 46, which is phenomenal. But I think it was like top 50 when I did it. And I was like, this is my best ranked time. Wow. Like, it's amazing. And then, yeah, I mean, with the progression from there, from like 46 to 46, like 5, it took a long time. It was over the course of multiple months. But then from once I had finally hit like the halfway point of 46, from 46.5 to 47, actually it was a 46.96, happened over the course of like a week and a half. It just like blew up. I randomly just like over the course of just a few days, kept getting like faster and faster series times. And I don't really know what I was doing to have them get faster and faster. It was kind of happening. But then I got stuck at that 46.96. I think being so close to the 47 is what drove me to really analyze series a little bit more.
Well, maybe let's get into some details about. We haven't talked at all about series in Strat Chat, so this is the perfect time to get like right into the nitty gritty about it. Because I think I remember you posting one of your 47 times, and you hit the first two doors.
Oh,
Is that right?
that's the funny one too. Yeah, it's so Two Cat had the second fastest time. I believe now he's got the third fastest time. I think it's a 47.20 or 47.19. I can't remember off the top of my head. But he, I think his comment with his time is, "I hit the first door."
Yeah.
And everybody wants to run through the first door at the right time. If you run through it at the right time, you're going to be getting out at right around, I believe it's 59.80, right? 59.85.
Yeah.
You can get out at 59.86. And I also believe that if you do some sort of like wall jump check, Snick would know better than I would about this. I think you can get out at 59.87, which is like insane.
But it would be slower though, wouldn't it, in overall time? Because you'd have to, like, you're losing momentum if you're doing a wall jump check, right?
I really don't know the details on it. I had read something recently. I think I'm not entirely sure. I think ED would know much better than I would about that. The Super Metroid scientists, those guys they know that stuff. And what was I getting at with that? Yeah, so I hit that first door, but I also hit the second door. Now, every time you hit a door, so this is just getting to more like the analysis of series. This may not be exact, but this is my like analysis, my the way that I picked up on it. Whenever you get hit by steam, you can get hit by steam a few different times, and whenever you hit a door, sometimes it can be slightly different. The amount of time that you're going to lose. So whenever I hit a door, I'm losing right around like 0.1 to like 0.12 seconds is how I figure it in my head. And whenever I hit a steam, I can hit a steam like directly straight on. I'm going to lose like 0.3 to like 0.35 seconds. I can also get hit by a steam and still like carry some of my momentum through. And then I'm losing a little bit less time, so only like 0.2 to 0.25 seconds.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Topsy. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to get this question in before you continue with the explanation because I want to hear more about series. But I just posted your series PB in the chat, so everybody can see it.
Oh God!
How does it feel to have a picture of Todd Rogers on?
There's such a good story behind that too. Like very legitimately a good story behind that. So I had at that time I had been getting a decent amount of like really solid series times. I got like a 47.01, 47.04, 47.06. So like it was progressively going up really well, and it was awesome. Now at that time, so this is gonna talk a little bit about what ED had said earlier. I believe I may be, and this is not like me, it's not like a bragging point or anything. This is actually a really interesting point because I had a conversation with Snick about it once. Maybe like one of my only conversations with Snick. He's a very elusive guy. I got it through the stair room at a 53.01, and I'm not entirely sure if any other person has gotten through that room in a 53XX at all. But he had said something to me in a conversation that like he's still waiting for somebody to break that 53 barrier because he had a 52.99 on his PB, and I think I had gotten a 52.97 a couple of times, but then I got the 53.01, right? So I don't know, just in general, like my time was getting better and better and better, right? Whenever I was getting like a lot of the 47s. And at that time too, I wasn't like streaming as often. I was really busy with work. Recently with my work, we've lost a few people, so I haven't been able to like dedicate as much time as I would like to. So I'd find myself like just woke up and like on my day off and I don't want to shower and I feel like gross. So I would stream with no webcam. And for a few days there, I was streaming with no webcam. So instead I was just putting funny pictures right there. And Todd Rogers was like kind of just in general, a big joke, but really a big joke on my stream because I would put his face on top of mine and act like my mouth was his. So we just joke around and act like I was Todd Rogers. And we have a bunch of clips on there. One of the clips got like 5,000 views or something like that. It's just really stupid. And so that day I changed it, that like literally that day, from like a crock pot, because I was running Crockmeyer RTA. I changed it from like a crock pot in my top right of the stream. I changed it to Todd Rogers, and it just so happened that I got that 47.21. I didn't even register for me whenever I had like originally gotten it, and then I was like, wait, hold on, that's really fast. I thought that was like the third fastest time, but then I looked and I saw that it was the second. It blew my mind.
Well, dude, I hope you beat it, but at the same time, it'd be kind of funny, like, if you didn't, because I would love for, like, somebody 5 years from now that, like, doesn't know anything about you, that's, like, looking up videos and being like, Todd Rogers, is this the thing he got banned for? Or whatever, like, because they wouldn't have any context. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you talking about, like, the actual tech, but I thought that was, like, you know, a really funny little nugget. But go ahead and continue on with, you know, some of the intricacies of the doors and all that.
Well, yeah, I think actually the first thing I wanted to kind of talk about really is, like, you know, you had really good times with hitting both doors, but so really to get a good time, it all kind of, I would say, hinges on the following two rooms, the steam room and the tile room, really. Like, I mean, if you, the final room generally is essentially just good execution on ledge grabbing, but it's kind of those two rooms that I would really want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a few points. The way that Oates makes it through series, he jumps in the stair room. So you've got the stair room, and then you've got the tile room. Those are like the big, like you said, the big determining factors on a lot of series times. And he jumps over the steams, and he actually gets hit by one, but it kind of like boosts him a little bit. I believe he gets hit by one. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, he makes it through that room at 52.72. And my like own little analysis is you're going to be able to get a 47 series if you can make it through that room at about a 52.55 or better, provided what your strats are after that. Now, if you can do the tile boost, kind of like Oates does, like a 52.55, you're going to be able to 47. So that's just a heads up for anybody who has gotten through that room at like a 52.50. You can 47 if you just do the tile boost. The tile boost saves, compared to what I do in that room, I just run straight through it. The tile boost saves about 0.2 seconds, a little bit over 0.2 seconds, if done perfectly.
So the tile boost you're talking about is sort of right at the bottom of the stairs. You do essentially a full jump and you boost perfectly off of a tile, almost at the top of the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is a really interesting point. I've talked to a couple people about like what is actually the fastest series time that somebody can get, and a lot of people want to say like a high 47.5x or maybe a 47.6x, but I'm actually confident in saying this, and maybe some people are going to disagree, but I think a 47.7 is possible. And the reason I say that is this. So when I went through the door at 53.01, Oates went through it at 57.02. About 0.3 seconds ahead of him at that point. So just that alone puts me at, if I do everything the exact same way he does it, puts me at a 46.63. And there's always a few frames to save. There's always a slightly better door transition, and there's always better ledge grabs. I think a 47.7 is possible. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I definitely think a 46 or 47.6x will happen. And I say that because had I gotten through at the 53.01, if I would have just continued through it correctly, I would have not gotten hit by steams the way that I do it with no tile boost. And that's another thing I should say. I don't do the tile boost. With the 53.01, that would have been just the same way through how I did it on my PB. And you can time it out, you'd see. It would have been a 47.4x, like a 47.4 mid. And that's with no tile boost. And tile boost saves, like I said, about 0.2 seconds, and there's always slightly better ledge grabs. Yeah, I mean, I think series is just in general a really interesting a way of just testing yourself in a small like time frame, and it's just like you're going to be doing it anyway, so you might as well set yourself little goals. But yeah, so the big thing that changes like my series from Oates's is, like I said, he jumps through the stairs room. Yeah, he jumps through it, jumping over steams and stuff, but it's slightly slower. What I do is I run through and I arm pump, and there's a few things that can happen. What you're looking for when you do that is perfect RNG on the steams. There's a couple different I mean, I'm not entirely sure how the steams work, but in my mind, I've like figured there's a few ways that the steams can come out that you're going to make it through without getting hit by the steams. And I don't know, it might be entirely random. And like I said, Super Metroid scientists would know better than I would. But whenever I'm going into the room, I'm watching the first steam and seeing whether it's going out or not. And if I'm seeing it blowing out through, the ground, as I'm running through the room, I know I'm not going to get hit by that steam. And then I'm just kind of hoping for the rest to not hit. But I'm also arm pumping through the stairs, and you can get stuck on the stairs. There's probably a way or an explanation for this, but magnet stairs is a big thing in series, where if you just try and run through it, you will actually like get a little stutter. And I don't know what causes it, but it seems to be random. And so as long as you don't get magnet stairs, you get really solid jumps, ledge grabs, and arm pumps through the entire room. I've actually shown that a 53OX is possible through the room, and there's lots of possibility past that.
Sure, but let's talk maybe about consistency at the same time, because
Mhm.
like do you always run through the steam? Like the first steam, like you said, if it is possible to avoid it, if you get bad luck on the first steam, a lot of people tend to jump over it. Do you ever jump over it, or are you always running straight through it?
I actually, it'd probably be smarter for me to just jump over it,
Mhm.
but I always run through it. I'll take the hit just because I'll have some iframes and I'll be able to get up through the next few steams and not get hit if they're going to be coming out at all.
Sure.
So then it's, because the way that I look at it is if I'm going to get hit by the first steam, if I was able to make it through perfectly with a 5300 through that room, getting hit by the steam, I'm losing about 0.3 seconds. And if I continue through it and get the rest of it correctly, I can go through that room at like a 52.6x or 52.7 maybe.
Mhm.
And it's still 47 like material. It's still possible to 47 off of that.
Sure.
So I usually just run through it and just like go for it because it's worth going for.
And likewise with the following room, with the tile room, like I would say the steam that kind of comes out from like horizontally through the stairs is kind of the one you have to watch out for. And like, do you ever avoid that one, or are you also just hoping for the best and take damage if you take it?
Yeah, see now, and that's the one that's killer for me. I've lost my fastest series times to that steam right there. I run through it because it's for me the way that I go through it and not jumping and whatnot. It is faster for me just to run through, ledge grab, run, jump, and then make it through the door. So if that steam goes off, and it did actually in my 5301, like through the door, I got hit by that first steam. When it goes off, that kills my series, unfortunately. So most people, if they see it going off through the transition, they'll jump over it. But I'm not preparing to jump over. I'm preparing to run through, so I never can actually like save any decent series times through there because I'm preparing for best case scenario.
Sure. Well, I mean, congratulations. It's a huge achievement to get that time on series. So
thank you. Yeah, I think that with enough time, once I get back into like another category and really grind it like I've done for many of the other ones, I do think that a 4X is going to happen. I feel relatively confident it's going to happen. It's just about getting the right RNG and actually performing it correctly. But yeah.
So I want to ask, we're going pretty long, but you're our buddy, so we're gonna probably just chat you up a little bit.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry. This has been great. We're going to be talking a little bit about Hundo tonight. We're going to do Maridia, but originally we were kind of thinking that we're going to talk a little bit about leaving Wreck Ship and just getting through the gauntlet. And I was kind of wondering if like you have some thoughts in terms of like what are you thinking in terms of health management? Like the biggest thing that I'm always trying to avoid with Gauntlet is going back to the ship. And Kipp, I'd love you to jump in on this as well, to almost have more of a discussion about what we do in order to avoid having to go to the ship if possible.
Yeah, I'll answer my portion real quick. I suck so much at Hundo that I have to go to the ship just about every time. So I'll leave this one to the masters of the category. But no, but I've done it a few times. I think for me personally, the wreck ship section, like if you want to skip the ship, there's a few key areas that you have to be really careful because there's as you guys know, a few rooms where if you mess up, you can take more damage, like the spike room or even running back through the attic the second time or something like that. So I think for me, it's just if I execute correctly in those rooms, I'm usually okay, and if I don't, then I'm usually in trouble.
Sure. What about you,
I would,
Topsy?
I would say so. For me, whenever I was going through rec ship, and I was right at that point, I think for most people running hundo, that's what you're thinking about the most is uh, your health management, because you don't want to hit that. You don't want to have to hit that ship refill. For me, whenever it became really important was once I picked up the rec ship e tank, and I'm coming back through the spike room of death, and coming back up through the rec ship, going up to the attic. So whenever I enter the attic, that's when I'm like really focusing mainly on my health. Some people, if you're doing left side attic, you're going to have a little bit better consistency because you're not going to be taking as much damage, not doing the spark.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. I'm not really consistent with left side attic, so I still go right side and do the spark. So I'm losing a little bit more health. It's still possible to be consistent with it, but from that point on, what matters the most to me is my health drops. So I'm hoping for good health drops through the attic, and then I'm hoping that I don't totally biff. And I do it so often, hoping I don't biff that stupid robot room because I can find myself taking so much damage in that room because I cannot seem to get through those damn robots. So if that's usually like my make or break it. However, I do think that what a lot of people should do, and this is a good point, a lot of people want to rush through. I'm not sure what the room is called. It's whenever you exit like the actual wreck ship and you're out like in over the ocean, right? And then you re-enter it, and there's all the waivers and the pancakes. That room. In that room, a lot of people still want to rush through it even when they're low on health. But believe it or not, if you get decent RNG, just stop there. There's a few strats through that room that you can actually get every single one of them killed, and you're only losing about 2.5 seconds. Now, if you think about it, that's far better than having to stop at the ship. So it's now at that point, most runners, if you're not, I guess, what would be called like a seasoned runner, you'd think, crap, I don't have enough health. I'm just going to run through, not worry about it, try and get fast times through these rooms and hit the ship. But I think a more seasoned runner would stop and say, I can use a different strat here, farm these guys, only lose a few seconds, and not have to hit the ship.
Cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, Moss, real quick, before, because I know we're getting close to the end of Topsy's interview, there is one actual thing I want to ask you about real quick that's kind of unrelated to Hundo before we return to it. Topsy, you have the world record in one of the extension categories, 100 missiles RTA, which I think now would be actually like a good time to just kind of, publicly say, like, I think that category, for an extension category is incredibly fun. Like, it's really neat, and it's super quick, like your world record time is a sub 18 minute. So in the grand scheme of all Super Metroid categories, 18 minutes isn't like like a super long category. But your PB, like your world record in that, is like 38 seconds or something like that ahead of second place, which for a category that short is like a really wide margin. Like that's a really good time for 100 missiles RTA. So can you just talk for just a minute about like what it was about the category that you found interesting and sort of like the process of grinding that down to the time that you have?
Yeah, so I'll say one, I'm a huge advocate for the category extensions. I know a lot of people are like purists and say, no, only these categories are Super Metroid categories. We got to remember we're still here playing the game for fun, and anything that's going to breathe life into the game is worthwhile. So that's what like kind of sparked it for me for 100 missile. I like a lot of the short categories, like Sports Bond RTA, like that time 627. That's not like super crazy good because I do the super route, so I'm grabbing super missiles. But like the short categories I find are fun because it helps you a lot with your early game, and it translates a lot to your like your main categories, your any percent, your hundo, so on and so forth. But 100 missiles specifically, yeah, that was I just played it for fun, and I enjoyed it, and I think I got like a mid 19 and then like a high 18, and just like from there, just like I said, I was just moving down more and more, putting more time into it. I thought of a few like fun strats for it that were slightly faster, and I think in general it's a fun run. I think most people should give it a shot. Right now, I'll admit, like a 1754, it is a solid time, and I'm actually really proud of like hitting that sub 18. But there's still time to cut off that. If you had like a really like top tier runner, if you have Oats, Static, Behemoth, Zos, any like real like top tier runner run 100 missile RTA, there's no doubt that that could go down even lower. I mean, especially like Behemoth. I mean, you know how he is with a lot of those RTAs.
Right.
I think it's possible to get like a real low 17. But it's a fun category. It is really cool because you're taking a whole new route that you're not going to be taking through a lot of other.
I agree, especially with the part about because I did the same thing with 100 missiles RTA. Like, when I did it for a little bit, like there weren't a ton of runs, so I was just kind of like figuring out my own ways through some of the rooms, and like it's kind of neat to do that for something, even though it's not like the extension categories, even though they're not quote unquote prestigious or whatever, like the primary categories, it's still fun because they're fresh, and like you can't just go watch like 7 of the best players in the world that have times and like just copy their strats. You get to just create on the fly, and it's really neat. But anyway, Moss, like you said, we're about to do 100%. You got another 100% question before we wrap this up?
I don't think so. I think we're ready to go. Really.
All right.
I want to say one thing real quick. I encourage everybody to run 100 missile RTA. I'm humble enough to say that time can not easily, but it can be beaten. And it would be so cool to breathe some life into that category, get more people running it, and give it the love that it deserves.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, to me, it's the most fun of the extension categories that I've played. And it's kind of like, even if you, like for me, like even if you aren't trying to run it for like a super sick time, like it's always like a good like wind down at the end of a night or something, like just fire it up and do it a few times or something just for fun.
Yep. And
go ahead.
The best thing about it too is if you know any main category, you already know 80% of 100 missile RTA, so you're
exactly.
good.
But cool. Yeah, Topsy, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show tonight, man. We really appreciate your insight on series and everything else. Before we completely let you go, can you tell us a little bit about your future plans with Super Metroid in terms of do you have any other goals that you're kind of going to work towards in the coming months, or what's your plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So like right now I'm not grinding a category particularly. I'm not going super hard on anything in particular. Whenever I stopped running Hundo right at that 1941, work was getting really busy, so I was putting a little bit more time into work and helping out over there and whatnot. But I do think a 118 and maybe eventually a 117 is a possibility there with enough time. A 44 old route is a goal that I've had for a long time, and I do think I'm capable of it. I've been on like minus 30 paces on that 45-50, so that is a possibility. World Record Series I think would be really cool because I think there's a clip of me somewhere saying the only world record that will probably never be beaten was the 47-32 from Oats, and that was from a while ago, so that'd be cool to like contradict myself. And then just more of the extension categories. Eventually maybe going back to RBO, but yeah, lots of goals for this. I mean, the good thing about Super Metroid is there's plenty to do, so I'm excited for it all.
Cool. Well, thanks again, man. We really appreciate it, Moss.
Yeah, thank you so much, Topsy. It's great to have you here.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm honored to be a part of Strat Chat, and thank you to everybody who watched and tuned in. It means a lot.
Thanks,
guys.
dude. Well, guys, as you can see on the screen, Topsy's channel is twitch.tv/TopsyTurve. So make sure to give him a follow if you do not. I have a feeling that pretty much everybody here follows you because I think everybody, is well aware of you and how fun and successful your stream is. So we will catch you later, dude, and good luck on all of your future runs.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Tops.
Cheers, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. So we're going to set up this call now with Moss. We're going to transition into our strat portion, and we're going to talk about 100% Maridia. So let me get Tree Moss on the line here. Okay. And, we try to run these strat chats around 2 hours. We're at an hour and 7 minutes right now. So we might not necessarily get through every tiny detail of Maridia, but that's perfectly fine because we can continue it with our next one. But as mentioned at the beginning of the show, as you saw our times, True Moss currently has a 118, 40-something. I can't remember what the seconds are, but a very, very incredibly fast time, a top 10 time. So I will show a few things, especially for, maybe some more beginner strats or things that are kind of safety nets, but I'm going to let him drive again on all the advanced stuff. So Moss, let me get my thing set up for you. And it's going to take just a second. hopefully that'll fix it right there. Okay, I think that got it. So Moss, it's on you now, and I'll be here to fill in a little bit, but you can take it away, bud.
Terrific. Hey everybody. So we're chilling at a different house tonight. I'm in the easy chair, so it's going to be a more relaxed strat chat tonight. Hopefully everything is going to work just fine. Let me know. Kipp actually probably would be best if you let me know how the stream quality is coming, but hopefully everything looks all right. So I was asking Topsy about the gauntlet section of Hundo. It's really important. I'm trying to, as much as possible, avoid going to the ship. I think it probably saves, like, the ship is what, maybe 10 to 15 seconds. So it's not insignificant to try to avoid the ship. And there's a couple of things you can do. Aside from having a good attic's a really easy way to lose a lot of health. Something that I don't think a lot of people are necessarily considering is trying to fill up your reserve tank in situations where it's more likely to be able to fill it up. There's a lot of times where I'm essentially hoping that I have enough health in my reserve tank to fill back up during the spark. So you need about 220 health to make the spark across. And if you don't have that, hopefully you have enough in your reserves. So one thing to kind of remember is that you can fill it up, and the best times to fill it up are right after you grab an E-tank. So one thing to kind of consider is try not to take much damage after you grab the E-tank, the first E-tank in Norfair. So if you can avoid damage and even farm a couple of enemies coming back through the business center, maybe get a couple of drops. If you get 2 or 3 health drops at that point, you're probably putting about 60 health into your reserve tank, which can be the difference. So that's one thing that's kind of important to remember. We're gonna do a little bit about last time we got to this section, and I had some internet trouble. So hopefully we're just gonna kind of talk a little bit about getting out of direct ship and a couple of things that'll be helpful to move through. So this room's kind of a good one to discuss a bit. There's a number of ways that you can farm. It all depends on kind of how much health you have coming in here. But what I usually like to do is just come into here with a charge held. And one of the easiest ways to get through, if you don't need to farm at all, is just you pseudo screw through the first guy, and then just jump in between these 2 enemies in the middle, and then jump under the final one. So sort of through, between, and under. We'll do it one more time. Through, not jumping properly. Through, between, and under. And it's really easy way to get through without taking damage. One way that I like to do it as well, if I do want to farm, and I'm not hurting on missiles, which really you shouldn't in Hundo. You shouldn't be hurting on missiles. I pseudo screw through, switch to missiles, and I usually land somewhere around here, and I'll do 2 shots. I'll do one angled down and then one angled up. It should kill both of these enemies. Ooh, I'm missing that pseudo screw tonight. 1, 2. And then I just do a high jump to grab both drops. And then immediately I do 2 more shots here, straight, and then angled up. And by doing that, 1, 2, 1, 2, you can grab 4 drops, essentially. So you might get supers, you might get missiles, you might get health. And it is possible that you don't even need a 3rd shot. Or a 4th shot. The 3rd shot might 2 bird, 1 stone these enemies here. Kind of just depends on how fast you get through. And that's about it. I'd like to take a minute or two just to talk about this work robots strat. If you end up doing a late Crocmire, this strat, I haven't really seen anyone kind of teach this strat. I learned it just by watching people, and Sephi kind of walked me through it a little bit, but I haven't really seen a lot of strats on specifics on how to do it. So it'd be kind of cool to talk for just a few minutes on it. I run into the room with a charge. for those who don't know, what I'm trying to do here is shoot through the spikes and hit the work robots that are down below, and hopefully get them to fall into the pits so that you don't have to shoot them later on. And that way you actually save like a ridiculous amount of time. It's hard to get both of them. Sometimes I'll just get one. It still saves a certain amount of time, but you want to try to get both if possible. So there's a number of things that go into this strat. The first thing, and one of the most important things, is the way you deboost off of the spikes the first time. So I try to deboost as late as possible, and you want to boost in a way that you kind of boost flat along the ground. Let me see if I can show you. That's not what you want. You don't want to do boosts that boost you high into the air. You want to do boosts that sort of boost you low, sort of like that. So it literally kind of almost boosts you into the ground. And the reason you do that is it gets you on the ground sooner, so it allows you to start running sooner. So it gives you more momentum and allows you to you can then jump further into the room on the next one. So that is pretty important. Man, looks like I'm dropping. Kipp, can you tell me if I'm dropping frames? Because my stream is looking kind of slow.
There were a few stutters, but right now, I mean, I can't really tell because you're not moving.
Okay. Well, let's just hope that everything's going all right. So anyways, you want to get this specific deboost while holding a charge at the beginning. And if you land that, this jump is actually pretty hard to land properly. If you get that deboost, you're going to run forward and do an angle shot sort of right here. Just before, I use this post in the background as a reference. So there's all these grapple blocks up here. There's this one area where there aren't grapple blocks. And I use this post as my reference, and also this post. These two posts are actually really important for this strat. So I shoot an angle down shot just before I reach the first post on the left. And then I use the other post as my reference. So I'll do a shot, I'll shoot sort of around here. I'll jump in the air and use this other second post as where I'm going to sort of stop my jump. This is where I want to land on the second time I take damage, right here. So let's see if I can do at least that much to start it off. Shot and turn around. Okay, so that's kind of how it begins. The hard thing about this next part is I face left, I aim down, and then as I'm about to hit the ground, I roll from down to diagonally down right. And if you do it at the right time, you kind of can avoid deboosting here because you kind of get into the turnaround animation. So it doesn't actually boost you backward. It sort of boosts, it doesn't actually boost you at all. So a shot, and I do a little turnaround right there. If you take a little bit of a boost back, it's not a big deal. That's what you're aiming for, though. The reason I turn around going to angling down and right is it then gives me the angle down position for the next shot. And then my second shot to hit the second robot is just before I hit this next post. So it's sort of these three posts in a row. I shoot just before post number one. Let's get over there again. I shoot just here before post number one. I jump and I use this as my post two as my reference to come down. And I shoot just before post number three. And then shortly after that, I do a big jump and ball up and hope I travel far enough into the room. It takes a lot of time to practice this. It's sometimes consistent, sometimes not. And then I'm going to lay a power bomb somewhere in this area. In terms of where you lay the power bomb, the most important thing is that you lay it while you're on the ground. If you lay it when you're sort of bouncing in the air like that, it's probably not going to work. So try to lay it right as you're on the ground on the spikes. Ideally, you're going to take 3 damage in this room with this strat. Well, close enough. Okay, the big problem with practicing this, though, is that it takes forever to see if you got it right. You can hear if your shots land on the robots, but then you have to get into the bowling chozo and ride him all the way along. It was a long time in practicing this, and I just had to be patient and wait and see if it worked or it didn't work. So anyways, that's in a nutshell the way you do that strat. It's very hard. I don't necessarily recommend it to most people, but if you're ever wanting to learn it, at least it's sort of documented at this point. Let's see if I got it. Oops. I got it. Great. And that's what it's going to look like if you land it perfectly. Like I said, it does save a lot of time. If you don't land it, most people will just start shooting this work robot to move him towards the right. I shoot him once, jump on top of him, and then I lay a power bomb sort of around right here in the air, right there. And then I actually, while I'm on top of him, I start shooting to try to hit this second work robot to move him to the right to try to get him into the pit a little early. So anyways, that's very hard strat, but it's a really cool one. It does save a lot of time. So this is a room where you can also save a lot of health. And it's all in the way you spark up. As opposed to just sparking from the ground, what I am often doing is I run straight to the wall here, and then I just do a spin jump to the left. So I don't even try to run and time my jump to get in here. You can do it this way, but I just run right up against the wall. After having charged a Shine Spark, I jump left, and then I try to do 3 wall jumps off the left wall. So I'm holding right the whole way through these wall jumps. 1, 2, 3, and then I just spark up right there. So we can see it one more time. You can do more boosts, but or more wall jumps, but you're kind of in peril of hitting those spikes on the way down. That's a pretty decent way of saving some life. I recommend you practice that if you're trying to save health through this area. The rest of this is pretty trivial. And I think we'll just boost right ahead to looking at just a little bit of gauntlet stuff. Grab. If you want to try for this strat, I mean, you might as well try for it. But what I do here is I do a shot right on this cactus, and then I jump on this cactus. So I get a full run speed from here, I think. And I'll just shoot. Oops, this guy's usually not in the way, but let's try it one more time. Shoot, jump. And if you jump properly, you can speedball through this. It saves a little bit of time. It's very inconsistent for most people, though. And then try to get back out as quick as possible. Okay. The way I like to do this room is I like to do a little mock ball. I unmorph here. I usually start running and shoot right around this spot right here once. That should hit the door. I switch to missiles, aim up, and hit this key hunter right in the face. Let's see what that looks like. It's just kind of satisfying to hit that key hunter right in the face. Okay, so here's where you can start saving a little bit of health for Gauntlet. Fastest way is just come like this. That's about 70 to 80 health probably. So you get up like that. The higher off you jump off of this, the ship, the more health you'll save. If you are really short on health and you are going to go to the ship, it's best to charge your Shine Spark first. Go get your health refill, and then when you're you actually keep your Shine Spark. So you still have a Shine Spark charged, and then you just angle up and spark immediately straight into the air like that. If you want to save a little health, like if you think you might make it with, you might have enough health to make it, you can also come up this way. It doesn't take that much more time to do, especially if you run in with Speed Booster, because you can sort of do a little turnaround here. Oh man, a little too late. Something like that. Well, jump off, do a 2-tap or a 3-tap, whichever you prefer. Jump up and spark up. I think it saves about 30 to 40 health. This is a room where you can really lose health. This is generally the room I'm the most afraid of around this time, because I've kind of committed to not filling up at this point. And if I take a lot of damage in this room, then you might be kind of screwed, because then either you have to have a really short Shine Spark through Gauntlet and then have to bomb your way through, or you have to just, bite the bullet and go refill. So this room is kind of scary. There's the way I like to do it. There's a number of ways people do this thing, but the way I like to do it is I switch to missiles. I come back here. I just do a 2-tap, 1, 2, And I try to jump. Wasn't quite it. I try to jump so that I can hit the roof of this this door and go through with blue suit on. So 1, 2, jump. That's probably okay. I ball up almost immediately, and that takes me usually to somewhere around here. And then I usually just kill this one seahorse right here. We'll kill all of them for right now. Let's just talk about really basic stuff about getting back through this room. You can deboost off of the shots that the Alkins make, but probably the safest way is just down grab, jump, down grab, jump, something like that. Gap skip rather than down grabbing. You can boost off of these spikes if you really want to. It's pretty risky though, and the acid does take a lot of damage quickly. So the safest way probably to get through this room is just shoot missiles and take out the seahorses as you come in. So something like this. Oop. You can I kind of use these little posts as references for where to shoot just before I pass these little posts. So if I'm in sort of this position horizontally, that's kind of where I make my shots. So somewhere, right around there, grab your item. And then to get back out, just try to avoid the acid as much as possible. This shot is finicky. It depends on which, what items you have equipped at this point. There's 2 positions, and we should probably look at both of them. Currently, I have Ice Wave Spazer equipped. And what I use as a position for this, it's really, really hard to explain it. But I look at the ground, and there's a couple of blades of grass that stand up a little bit more than others. There's a really big one right here, and then there's a smaller one just right here. So with Ice Wave Spazer, I use this one on the left as my reference. I try to position myself in a place where this blade of grass, I don't know if it's going to pick up, but the blade of grass on the left goes right through my left foot. That's what I use as a reference. I'm sure other people have other visual references, but that's what I find most consistent for me. Once you have the right position, it's actually pretty easy. All you have to do is shoot and then run just after you shoot. So it's release shot and then push right, shot right, just like that, and that should work fine. Behemoth he can't do angle down, so he has kind of a cool way of doing it where he jumps up and uses this wall as a reference. He kind of butts up into this wall, holds right, and as soon as he hits the ground, he press fire. I don't find it consistent, but he obviously does. It's pretty cool though, a shot like that. And so essentially once he hits this wall, he's holding right the whole way. So let's quickly look at if you're going to do it without, if you're coming in with wave equipped, which if you're X-factoring Fantoon, you will be using wave. So again, I use my feet and I use the blades of grass as references. This time, I'm using this little tiny tuft of grass right here as my reference. So on the very far left of this whole segment of grass, I use this as my reference. And I try to edge to a point where my foot, so my left foot, with the one which is the farthest to the right. So the left foot is being cut in half by the one blade of grass. Again, I hope it comes through on stream, but it might not. You just have to find the spot where your foot has like it's split right in half essentially by that one blade of grass, and that's what I use as my reference. And then I spark across. This is actually, I mean, it's really easy to spark from this spot and get it perfectly as long as you're standing. But the window for the spark is surprisingly small, to the point where we talked a little bit at one point about crouch jumping, how when you start your jump from a crouch position, it actually starts your jump, I think, 8 pixels higher than when you're standing. If you're shine sparking from a crouch position, you actually are starting your shine spark at a higher position. You won't make it through the whole door if you shine spark from a crouch here. which is kind of interesting. So it's, less than 8 pixels. So if I crouch and shine spark across, you'll notice that I don't make it through the door there because I'm a little bit too high. So don't crouch. Make sure you're at the top here. Don't come down too much because you might not make it there as well. There is an insanely ballsy way of doing it if you're really feeling risky. This is something that Straveris did in his RBO run, and it's just like needlessly ballsy. But if you want to, you could do something like this. That's not it. But you kind of use in the background, this gray cloud as the reference, and you just go for it and hope to do a horizontal shine spark at the right time. It's so stupidly risky. I don't know. I was really impressed that Stray even tried for it in his RBO run, but it's pretty crazy stuff. And hopefully you have enough health. If you don't, the shine spark is a good time to trigger your reserve tank. And if you're wanting to switch off ice and Spazer, now's a good time. And then we're through the gauntlet, essentially. Kipp, do you want to run over some Maridia stuff first, or do you want me to just jump into it?
Well, I'll tell you what. I've already got my save state at the tube in the first room, and I'll just talk real quick about like the kind of safety strat people can use to get those Main Street missiles, and then I'll let you kind of take back over from there while you're getting set up.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so let me put it back on here, and let me get rid of... Okay, cool. So, real quick, let me just kind of go ahead and tell everybody up front that, I'm not 100% expert at all. Probably the main category that I have the worst time in, relatively speaking. And my short charging is not great. But let me just kind of go ahead and show you. When you first enter the room here, this is like... I literally save stated this as I landed, from jumping up into the room. You'll note that there's this crab here, and you can either hit him with 2 regular missiles or shoot 1 missile. You can land here, and you'll be in position to hit the guy, as opposed to if you were to fire like a missile, up here, it would miss or whatever. So you can just basically hit him, and what most people are going to do is a stutter 3-tap right here to get this shine spark to get the Main Street missiles. And what's going to happen is usually my visual cue, and I would run hundo, is I would try to get it, and then I would stand on this little patch of grass right here and then just spark straight up. Now, I'm sure there are probably somewhat more advanced methods. Like, I even think Behemoth might, jump or something. It seems like I remember him jumping. I can't remember. But the basic premise is you kill that guy, and then, well, I'm not going to try it again because I'm not going to get it. But, yeah, you do a stutter 3-tap to get the spark. But, part of what Strat Chat is about is trying to show that, no matter what your skill level, no matter how comfortable you are with different methods, you're always wanting to do things that can get you the fastest time that you personally can get for your skill level. So one thing to keep in mind is, for those people that might not feel great about stutter 3-tapping right here, you can run up here, very quickly, and just kind of, even if you don't feel super comfortable, you can get to the edge of this room, and you can even do a 1-tap. That's how much space you have. If you just really don't feel very comfortable, you can do a 1-tap right here and still have enough room. So, traditionally, maybe at least you'll be comfortable with a 2-tap. If you are comfortable with a 2-tap, you can probably maybe go to, I don't know, somewhere around right here. So anyway, you can come over here, and one thing you can do is basically just, fall, essentially. Okay, it's very, very safe. You have plenty of time to do it. You can just kind of fall right here. And you can even use the edge of this little platform to make sure that you're in the right spot. You can essentially run into the edge of this platform right here. Okay? So if you're very, very new, and you're just trying to learn something that'll get you up there, this one will definitely do it. Okay? You just get down there and you jump up. However, Moss will show some more advanced things, but this is the first item that you have to collect in Maridia. And it's kind of in some ways, I would say for faster, runners, this is a bit of a choke point, maneuver because, I've done it many times. I'm sure everybody in here who's run 100% has probably failed this strat at least once or twice before getting it. And it doesn't eat a ton of time, but, we're always trying to run the fastest times that we can. So this is a good place, though, in my opinion, just like not only just for hundo, but just to come in here and practice stutter 3-tapping. Because if you can get it in this particular spot, then you can pretty much get it anywhere. And one thing I would like to point out that I oftentimes forget is this little slope right here. You technically will run on it, and so you have more room. Like when your foot gets here, you're not out of room. You can technically get a few more pixels of space here, so it's possible for you to actually like try not to press down too quickly, because you actually have more time than you would think. See, like right there, I was a little fast, plus my stuttering wasn't super great. Okay? So if anything, this kind of shows that I'm not the greatest, stutter 3-tapper in the world. But yeah, there you go. There's the general principle. Moss, are you in a position where you can take back over? All right, cool. So I'm going to toss this back to Moss, and he'll go through some of the more advanced stuff.
Yeah, so Kipp makes a really good point about this short charge. There's absolutely no shame in not even trying this short charge until you feel really, really consistent with stutter 3-tap. If you mess it up, I don't really like stutter 3-tapping to the right here to redo it, because often I find my stutter will actually, when you're on a little slant here, sometimes your stutter will actually push you off the ledge. It's almost like what happens when you arm pump down a slope. So I often don't even do I don't even try to do it heading back left. If I mess it up, I'll literally run back to the right and do another short charge to the left. It's probably losing about 1 to 2 seconds by doing that. And it's a good thing to note, because if you do decide to come up here and do this strat, one thing you can kind of do is once you charge your Shine Spark somewhere around here, you can fall onto this platform, and then you can just spin jump sort of into this wall here. And as soon as you hit this wall, you push up and you can Shine Spark up immediately rather than having to fall all the way down. This, I believe, I'll just show it to you. So you just do that. If you do that in the right amount of time, so if I do this as fast as possible, we're at 4 seconds, 4.32 seconds if I do it properly. If, let's say I go straight up, and I just go straight to this strat. All right, that's 7.5 seconds. So it's only 3 seconds. So if you're not likely to hit your first time, like if you have to do 2 or 3 short charges to land it, it's not worth your time. You might as well just get really good at this, doing it this way. Just land here, a little spin jump, and then push up. It's, like I said, 3 seconds. So if you mess this up more than twice, there's no point of even trying to do it. It is great to try. If you're practicing your stutter 3 a lot, it's a great strat to land the first time. But you have to kind of gauge how well you do this stutter 3-tap, and this is one of the hardest stutter 3-taps. In fact, I think a lot of top runners actually do a stutter 4. I remember Sweet Numb definitely did it with a stutter 4-tap at least at one point. So it's risk versus reward, and if you're not really consistent with it, there is absolutely no shame going up and doing it this way. So just something to keep in mind. You can do this with a 1-tap. It's a little riskier to do it that way. I have no problem doing a 2-tap here, something like that. You could theoretically, I guess, if you wanted to do something a little different, you could actually go to the left, do something like this, and then try to either try to jump so that you jump over this and then use this as a reference, or sorry, this one here, jump over this and then try to butt up against this wall. It might be a little bit faster, but I don't do it that way. I always do this one. So I use, I just shoot on my first tap, 1, 2, 3. I use that as the reference, and it always hits this crab. Okay, so let's assume you've landed this Shine Spark however you do it. If you want, I've seen Oates do this now. He starts to do a moonfall off of this. I don't recommend it. I really don't. It's pretty cool, and it saves a little bit of time if you want to. And it is a relative free moonfall to at least start, because you can buffer your jump on the fall down. But there is a lot of perils with this. Firstly, you could hit this skull down here, and then it messes up your moonfall. But also, I generally find you have to wiggle a little bit left to right so that you don't land here on the moonfall, that you come all the way down and land here. So just to show that, I'll do a little left, right, and it puts you right here. It also helps to avoid that skull. But if you go too far to the left, you're going to moonfall all the way down here, and it's losing you time. So it's not, I don't advise it, but it is a strat, and we're talking about strats here. Most likely just fall down, try to avoid hitting any of these skulls, and land right here. You want to try, every time I go through this room, I try to get this sort of frame perfect jump going through this door, if you can. So I usually shoot right here two or three times, and then I just get a lot of run speed, and I try to hope to jump on the last frame entering the door. You can tell you get it. Let's try it a few times. That was too early, and I can tell it was too early because I saw the door actually sort of move downward. If you jump at the right time and you hear the jumping sound, but the door doesn't move up, see, that was too early still, then you know you got the perfect jump. Still too early. However, if you do jump a little bit early, you can still finagle a way up. If you jump just a little too early, that's too late. That might be too early, though. Let's try that one more time. That looks fine. So what you can do here, it's kind of a cool strat, is you can hold down and you can literally turn left if you do it at the right time. And your turnaround animation actually allows you to keep your upward momentum. It's something similar to what happens in our Dragon. You can do the same kind of strat. So if I notice I'm a little too high out of the door, I'll hold down, and as soon as I start moving, I'll push left. And it sometimes, if you're lucky, it'll push you around. If not, just wall jump your way up and get up to here. So hopefully you'll land this really fast jump, and if not, just keep going. Okay, so Static 9 showed me something kind of cool about this room. Most people will come down here and deboost off of, well, let's do that again. Most people will come down here, damn it, and deboost off of this guy to get into this hole here. That's what I used to do. It's actually not faster. It's slower than just coming down all the way, jumping up and doing a one tap. It's actually slower to do it with a deboost. It was something cool that Static showed me. He actually, Static showed it to me before he mentioned it to Zost and Behemoth, and I was like, oh man, this is the time. I'm gonna edge Zost and Behemoth and Hundo now. I know this one little strat that they don't at this point, but apparently Static told Zost and Behemoth almost immediately after he mentioned it to me. So I lost my advantage. So anyway, it's not a big deal, but it's a little time saver if you can avoid these guys. Jump down here. I'm just gonna get rid of this guy. Oh, I can't, right? I don't have the weapons for it. I do a one tap here with supers. And then I charge a Shine Spark right at the door. Okay. This room is kind of tricky to, like, if you mess it up, it sucks to get up here. That is one of the worst ways to mess it up, like that. You want to avoid that as much as possible. So what I use as a reference is I use this wall on the side here. When this wall clears the left side of the screen, just after it clears the left side of the screen, I push up. That's my reference. And usually that works just fine. So that's actually a pretty good visual reference. And usually it'll work just fine. Okay, so I come down. I usually try to land on the far side of this platform, holding a charge shot. There's a number of ways to get to figure out how to get this item. I really hate missing this item. It's a real pain in the ass because you have to climb all the way back up, shoot down, and grab it. So what I use as a reference is I stand on the somewhere on the left side of this, holding a charge and angle down. I run off, and I release my shot just as Samus's gun sort of gets level with this crack in the floor. So as the gun kind of gets level with it, that's when I release the shot. And then just keep holding right, grab the item. From right here to get pretty much perfectly onto the platform, I jump and I release on the third whoosh sound of the jump. 1, 2, 3. And it puts you pretty perfectly right there. So I use an audio cue for that. I'm sure there are other ways to figure it out, but I like to use that audio cue because it's really, really consistent, and it kind of puts you perfectly right there. Start shooting and run through. Hopefully you won't hit the door. You have kind of a choice of how you want to get up here. The easiest way to do this room is charge a shine spark. Use this as a reference. So when this hits the right side of the screen, push down, that'll charge your shine spark. And then all you have to do is walk down to here and angle up and spark diagonally to the left. If you do that, not only will you get up there pretty quickly, but you'll also kill this skull with your blue echoes every time. So that skull's sort of out of your way. You can angle shot, grab the drops if you want to, and get up there however you do. If you time your charge just right, you can actually charge and fall down here perfectly. It's a little bit faster. Not like that. But anyways, that's sort of probably the easiest way to get up here. The harder way is to try to do a full jump just a little bit further left than when this little cave passes off the screen. If you jump at just the right time, you can kind of get a really, really awesome blue suit jump. A little too early. There it is. And if you're fast enough, you can actually beat, I jumped a little too early, but you can beat that skull. The skull moves globally, or rather not globally, moves off screen. So you have a certain set amount of time in this room before the skull makes it to the right. So you have to move pretty quickly in order to beat the skull on the way up. But if you can land it, it's very fast. I think it's about maybe a second to 2 seconds faster. Oh, still a little too high. If you jump too high, you're often going to bonk. But anyway, that's a very interesting strat to try. If you mess it up, though, I usually just, if I mess it up, I switch to supers. I come up here, shoot him with an angle down, angle up and hit the door, and then climb up the way I normally would. I use 2 wall jumps to get into this. On the second one, I just ball up. You can do it off the left side, or if you feel more comfortable, you can go off the right side and ball up like that. They're both basically the same thing. There's not a lot to say about this room, though. If you're fast enough, you can only take damage once. If you grab this item, jump and ball up, and you can get past this crab without taking damage more than once. Pretty hard to do, though. I don't find it very consistent. Generally, I'm ending up taking 2 damage here. It's kind of hard to get into this hole, actually, if you're from a standing jump position. If you're having trouble with that, bombing is just fine. You could probably even lay the bomb, grab the item, and come back. I've never tried it, but probably it's doable. Let's see. Bomb. Oh, you have to actually unmorph, so maybe not. But it is hard to get into this little hole. It's easier to do it when standing than it is while ducking, because, again, when you duck, you actually start your jump a little bit higher than when you're standing. So that's a little bit tricky to do. I think the most important thing about this jump is that you want to try to push your first down button before you hit the ceiling here, because it actually, when you press aim down, it compresses your hitbox enough that you actually jump higher up. So if I'm not pressing down, I don't jump very high. But if I press down earlier, I actually end up jumping a little bit higher because it's compressing my hitbox. So you have to kind of jump and push down almost immediately. Okay. You probably won't be needing to deal with health management at this point, so just spark up. There's nothing really to say about that room. I do 3 wall jumps, 1, 2, 3, and then I do a 4th one a little bit late. You don't want to jump too early on the 4th one because you can take damage from this guy, and if you do, you're going to fall. 1, 2, 3, 4, take damage, and you can't wall jump anymore. If you want, you can go 1, 2, 3, left to right if you want, but I don't really like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I usually turn around and jump up off this platform. I like to deboost off of this guy. I'm sure there are other ways to get through this room, but most of the time I see people deboost off of this one. And then this ouch is kind of an interesting part of this room because it's really easy to take damage off of this ouch. You can kind of tell if you're going to take damage based on when the ouch goes down into the ground. If the ouch goes down to the ground quickly, so somewhere around this plant, if the ouch goes into the ground when you're running or you're boosting to the right, somewhere around here, you either need to jump over the ouch on the way back, like this, or you need to do something like a 3-tap, so that your blue suit just blasts through him. We'll just look at it a couple of times. So I'm going to have to do it here. If I just run through at this point, the ouch is going to hit me because I noticed that the ouch went down really quickly. And actually, it'll always do it in this situation. So I'll do a 1, 2, 3. Oops, not like that. Either you can jump over it, or I just like to do a 3-tap here and jump up here. I jump right around here to get up onto this platform. This room is one of my least favorite rooms in the game. I think a lot of people hate this room, really. Kipp, do you hate this room? This next room?
Yeah, it's a tough one. And just for the record, I'd like to point out that I refer to these little guys, the one you just killed right there, I refer to them as the Chrono Trigger enemies. I don't know if you've ever played Chrono Trigger, but there's
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I noticed that.
So I do actually, every time I enter the room, I enjoy seeing them because Chrono Trigger is like my favorite game. But now this is a tough room, both in and out. But it's pretty swaggy when you pull everything off.
It's very swaggy when you pull everything off, yeah. I know that I don't do this. I've seen Oats and Goats do this, but he's Oats, and Oats is unreal as a player. He does a little mock ball off of here onto this platform. Then he usually lands right around here, and he actually jumps and balls into this little hole, which is insanely hard. You have to, well, firstly, these guys aren't going to be in your way normally, but you have to ball up like that. I'm actually stunned I got it. But you have to ball up so damn quickly to get into that. I do not try for it because it's really, really hard. If you could go for it, and if you end in a ball, you just bomb jump your way up. But it's pretty ridiculously hard. A slightly easier, but still pretty damn hard way to do it is to try to deboost off of this first Chrono Trigger guy. Now, if you try to deboost off the first one, this second one can kind of give you some issues. Ideally, the second Chrono Trigger enemy will head to the right when you deboost through the first one. And if that happens, then you're fine. You just bomb jump your way up. Sometimes he'll just sort of loiter right around here. And if that happens, he can really kind of mess up your bomb jumps because he actually damages you before the bomb goes off. So if that happens, I just spam the bomb until I get up there. Let's see if I can get it to happen. No, so he went to the right. That's good news. But I don't know exactly why it happens, but sometimes he'll just stay put. Maybe I'll just reset the room and see if it happens, just to give you a reference to it. But this deboost is pretty tricky. I'm always really happy when I get this room properly. There it is. So he kind of gets here, and you notice that I try to, and he'll deboost me out of the way. So either you can just keep spamming bomb until you get up. Or I guess theoretically you can just aim up and shoot him twice and then continue to bomb jump. Whichever you kind of find is easier for you. Ideally, he heads to the right though. So from here, I do a little down grab, or a gap skip, I guess is the best way to call it. Gap skip to this spot and then jump over here. This jump is kind of hard because you have to do it blind. So what I use as a reference for this next part is this circle in the wall. I jump just after that passes off screen. That's kind of what I use as my reference to jump. And that usually puts me up here pretty perfectly. You do have to hold right after you jump in order to curve, in sort of a question mark shape around these platforms to get up here. But that's what I use as a reference. I'm sure there are other things you can use, but that's what I find most consistent. There's a number of ways to get through this room, especially dealing with dispatching this pancake. So most people usually just gap skip across this first one. If you don't want to, you can just jump. It's fine. That's fine. And then there's a number of ways you can kill this guy. You can shoot him with a charge shot. If you have a charge shot ready, you could also just pseudo screw through him, something like that. I find that one kind of harder to do because when you're in spin jump, it's kind of hard to stop your left to right movement. And you want to ideally fall straight down into this hole. I use as a reference this in the background, this sort of black vertical bar. I try to stay to the left of it, and that sort of puts you perfectly down. I don't use either a charge shot or a pseudo screw. I just use a missile, or I'll just spam a couple of missiles on the way down, something like this, something like that, and try to land down here perfectly. Grab these two items. I don't know if it's actually there, if there is a faster way, which way is faster, left or right. I think Oates goes this way, but I think, I'm pretty sure when he does it, he tries to grab it off the side, and then he wall jumps, grabs this one off the side, wall jumps, and comes back up. It's really small though. Just grab it and go and get the other one. There's not much, it's very small time savers. Get back up. When you shoot this door, most people will mock ball through. It's kind of a good thing to be in ball coming into this room because you can unmorph just after you pass this post and or this platform, and you usually land perfectly right here. Avoid all of the chrono trigger enemies. So from right here, there's a pretty hard mock ball that you can do, and you go right through this. I always try for it because why not? And if you don't make it, then just jump up and ball through. I do it with I do a stutter 3-tap to get through here, but it's probably not the fastest way. I just find it the easiest to time the jump. It's what felt the easiest.
Yeah,
to me.
to your point, real quick. Again, I'm not a hundo specialist, but if I get that strat, it's usually because I'm not moving too fast. I think just one thing in general. I feel like when a lot of people start running the game, they're just trying to get to their maximum run speed possible all the time, and then sometimes there are little small nuances where if you move a little bit slower, you can get a better jump or something like that. And I think this is a good example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you don't even really need to do it as a well-timed stuff in this because the blue suit is kind of immaterial. It's more about how much run speed you have. So you could, in theory, maybe just hold run and release run, somewhere around here. And that's probably about the same amount of speed, something like that. And then try to make the jump. I haven't tried that exactly. You'll have to kind of figure out what works best for you and what most consistent.
And to your point, I think the reason I do I attempt a 2-tap and you're talking about doing a 3-tap is those are maneuvers that already feel comfortable in any other, location. So it just kind of translates.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than trying to learn something new specifically for this room, just go to the old basics that you already know. It's a really good point, Kipp. Yeah. I try to jump. I jump, I just have a visual, understanding of where this platform's going to end. I don't actually really have much visual understanding or a visual cue besides I know where this is. That's basically all I can really tell you about that one, though. It's hard. It's always a bonus when you land it. It always feels so damn good when you get right through and it's let's see if I can do it. Not quite, But it always feels like so damn good. On a really good run, when you land that, it just feels like it feels great. I think I got it on my 118. Like the 118 run, it was like everything landed. I actually got that speedball out of the wreck ship that goes into the, like after you get gravity, that speedball, like I never get that in a run, but I was on this insane pace and I also landed that one. So it's like, sometimes everything just comes together for you, right? Okay. This room is not very hard. Run or jump off, angle down. I actually run off of that platform and I go straight into a down back off of that platform. It's not necessary, but I find it easier to down back through this room in order to avoid this crab. You could probably just hold left though. Maybe not. Down back actually is a little bit more consistent. Because you're actually sort of pulling your feet up, so you're not going to hit that crab. You want to avoid them if possible. Theoretically, if you want to, you could KO through. You could go into a ball and KO through them. I think Sweetnum does that. I know I've watched a lot of Sweetnum's Hondo stuff, so something like that, and come in through with a ball. I always go into a ball just after I go past that crab. The reason it's nice to go into a ball here is, again, using that thing of breaking your downward momentum by unmorphing. If you unmorph right here, you can down back and shoot open this part here and fall right through. It's very pretty to see. Ooh, almost that. Just like that. It's really, really pretty. So I just unmorph just after I pass the bottom of this post right here. Just after that, I unmorph and then down back. You don't need to, though. You could, like, this is perfectly fine. So all I do is I hold angle down, and I just, instead of balling up, I just shoot right there, just as I'm about to come through. And then I just run off. The biggest thing is that you want to, if you want to go fast enough that you actually beat this crab, this one here, because he comes up into this hole and, you know, can ruin your day. So if you land on this platform or do something like that, then you're probably going to get hit by that crab. It's not a big deal, but ideally you want to avoid it. And the down back method is really, really, really cool. All right. Let's see. Switch to supers. This is actually an interesting little jump shot here. A lot of people will jump, shoot the door, and mock ball. It's not dissimilar from a strat that you use in the first time you go through the Dakar room, I think it's called. The room before Big Pink. It's or the golden mock ball room. Right after you bomb those little bricks out, a lot of people run through the door, shoot the door, and do a little mock ball. This is sort of similar to that. The only difference is that you can do a full jump. You can hold jump the whole way through this room. You don't actually have to, like in the other room, you have to jump and do a short hop mock ball. And that's kind of tricky because it's sort of, sometimes if you shoot when you've released jump, you'll lose your momentum. So I just run and I jump right here. I use this post in the ground, little square, as my reference. I do a full jump and I never release jump. Just after I jump, I shoot and continue to hold jump and then just do a mock ball at the end. So it'll look something like this. That was just a little bit too early. Let's try it one more time. Unless it's a little, when you don't come into the room the way you're used to, it's a little bit weird. There it is. So it's kind of cool because you can just hold jump through that whole part. I lay a bomb immediately. There is some, Static 9 has talked a lot about the way you turn around in this room and not staying in ball to get through this. I don't entirely understand it. It has something to do with moving these guys off screen so that the power bomb, if Static's here, he can probably explain it better in chat, but it essentially reduces lag with the power bomb here. But the simplest way is just lay a power bomb and come down. Ideally, you don't want to bounce on these platforms as you come down. So what I like to do is I just lay a power bomb. I come to the right, I come back to the power bomb, and then I come right again. And that's usually just enough time. Right, left, right. And it's, pretty close to a good time. I do 4 wall jumps up. You do as many as you feel right. I actually try to shoot this door before I move forward. So I land on this ledge perfectly with an angle, and I just shoot standing, and it'll hit this door. Some people do it while running. I don't find with wave it's always really consistent to hit that door like that. Kind of depends on when you shoot it, but I always just wall jump up and do a standing shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, standing shot, and then jump up. If you can, it's better to try to turn around a little bit on this this jump, because the door transition can be pretty hectic. If you jump, maybe I didn't reset the room properly, but I like to jump and just tap right just before I hit the door. If you kind of jump, or if you're jumping one direction and you tap in the opposite direction, it essentially just shoots you straight upward. So if I'm running to the right and I jump and tap left, I go straight up. And that's what I'm trying to do through that door. To kind of come straight up through the door like that. And then just get to botch wound is the big thing. You can do a 2-tap here. I like to do a 2-tap. Actually a stutter 2. And if you want to do the blue suit through the door, this is only useful if you're going to use the audio cue. If you're using the visual cue, most people will stop right here and run through. But if you're going to use the audio cue, I do a 2-tap here. I shoot right here at this post, and I jump right here at this post. And generally, if I time my jump properly, I can jump right through this door. Let's try that once. I shoot right here on the ground, wait until I land on the ground, and then shoot while standing. You can theoretically do it from right here as well, and it should work just as fine. It means you have to do a much better, I think, a 3-tap in order to get through. I do it from here, and I do a stutter 2. 1, 2, shot, jump, and you jump. If you're timing it perfectly, you can jump right through in blue suit. Or sometimes the kind of cool thing that'll happen is you actually kind of clip onto the door. Let's see if I can do it just for fun. Nope, a little too early. Anyways, there it is. So you see I'm crouched here. It's not. This is complete stupidity, but I just like the fact that if you come into the room crouched in blue suit, you can actually hold angle down and speed keep. It's completely pointless, but I just like the fact that you can come into this room holding your blue echoes. I don't know if you could actually theoretically. I think theoretically you could come into this room with blue suit and mock ball and speed keep, over here and have a speed keep. Though I don't think you can actually damage botch wound with blue echoes or with speed keep. So, anyways, kill botch wound. I did not use the visual audio cue, so I was way
Yeah.
off.
Speaking of which, Moss, we're like around 2 hours and 6 minutes. So why don't we finish
Perfect.
this to like the Dragon entry, because that'd be a great place to stop. In the next episode, we can kind of pick up the rest of Maridia.
Great, let's do that. Perfect. Okay, that's not a great botch wound, but we already talked about botch wound in an earlier earlier stream. Okay. So really quickly, you don't grab this E-Tank now. You're going to grab it later because you want to try to get through this room without losing speed. It's just faster. The only one of these guys you might have to watch out for is the first one. Sometimes, depending on how fast, where he jumps, you can take damage. So either you have to hit him with a missile, or I guess hit him with a shot. But I usually just use a missile because I'm usually not hurting for missiles. I shoot right here to open the door for the blues to run through with speed booster. So just using the sand as the reference, and that usually works just fine. Shot, and we're through. We talked a little bit about the full half E before and the half E. The big thing about like the only thing I'm going to say about the halfie, because the halfie is pretty doable, I think, for a lot of people. It's a very cool trick, and it can get very consistent. The big thing with it is like just you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to go crazy with your wall jumps all the way up. Just watch how slow I can do wall jumps here, and you can still basically make it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I still have enough time to make that shot work. So don't go crazy with your wall jumps. You can do 3 wall jumps, 3 really long wall jumps. So a big jump, 1, 2, 3, and that works fine. 1, 2, 3, maybe a 4th, depending. And, it takes a lot of practice to get good at doing a full halfie, but practice makes perfect. Okay. So I usually jump off this platform and I don't butt up against coming down. I usually try to land as far to the left as possible to give myself a lot of running speed getting into this room. What I like to do is just ball up and bounce, and hopefully it takes me right here. Sometimes you might land here, depending on how far to the left you bounce. From here, I like to just do a little gap skip, shoot this, and spin jump into this item. But there's a number of ways to get this item, really. It does these are all, just jumping is a fine option. Don't do that. Just jumping. This all works fine. The reason I like to spin jump is that then I can do a wall jump off of grabbing this item and land on this platform. That way I can do another gap skip to run back across. And then I can do a big jump to get right down into this hole. So that way I'm only doing 1 jump back across. I'm not dealing with this entire awkward section here. I'm just jumping right over it. Just doing something like this and hopefully trying to make it over to get all the way down here. Another option is depending on which route for hundo you're doing, if you have grapple here, I've seen some people do this as well. Let's just turn on grapple. Oops. So if you want to, you could just turn around, shoot this, and land on this part right here. So you can come into this room on power bombs, shoot that item, go to grapple, do something like that. It's kind of a nice way of getting across, actually. I used to do that, but now that I'm doing late grapple, I don't have grapple at this point. So it's a nice way. If you mess it up, you can't do it again because this thing doesn't return, but it gets you back to here. And then shoot the eye door. The only little thing about the eye door that's kind of worth mentioning is that I try to center it as much as possible after I shoot it. So once you've shot the eye door, it flashes and you can't open the door immediately. This is a good time. I just jump and aim down, and it actually scrolls the door a little bit further up. So you might notice here, it actually scrolls up a little bit more. It just puts the door a little bit better in the center of and it means that the transition to the next room is actually just a little bit faster. And then Dragon. So that's Maridia first half, and I guess next week we'll look at second half. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, man. That was really good, and I think splitting it into parts is really good because Maridia is a pretty complex and tough segment of hundo. So good job on explaining the strats. I'm going to turn this over back to my screen for just a second.
Yeah.
So guys, thank y'all so much for hanging out. We hope you enjoyed the strat chat. At this point, we're gonna stop there. This one ran over just a little bit, but we're always shooting for around 2 hours, 15 minutes, something like that. And I want to say a big thank you to TopsyTurve for coming on and talking to us and giving us a lot of great insight, especially about series. So make sure to check those streams out from him. And Moss, thank you so much once again for driving on a lot of this hundo stuff. You said, I think earlier, that you're currently working on 80% new route. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the plan. The lower North Fair has just been killing me lately.
Cool. Yeah. I feel
Story of
you.
my
It's,
life.
it's a tough segment, but anyway, guys, thank y'all so much. We're gonna cut it there, and we'll be back 2 weeks from now, and we'll finish up the Maridia section. So, Moss, thank you again, dude, and I will catch you later.
Bye, guys. Thank